Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to both, and it's good to welcome a fellow New Jerseyan in your role, Mr. Chairman. I have been actively following both Venezuela and Russia's interest in developing virtual currencies for the purposes of evading U.S. sanctions. Last month, I sent a letter to Secretary Mnuchin on this subject, and I asked Undersecretary Mandelker about this a few weeks ago when she was here before the committee. Under what circumstances would the SEC and the CFTC have a role in engaging or regulating the proposed new petro or crypto ruble currencies? More broadly, does the SEC and CFTC have a role to play in preventing the use of digital currencies by foreign governments to evade U.S. sanctions?
Our jurisdiction should be very limited in that area, Senator. We have, as I've spoken about before, we do have enforcement authority for fraud and manipulation. And so if we thought that that instrument was being used for fraudulent purposes, manipulation purposes, we would not hesitate to take authority. But this, you're probably touching on an area where the jurisdictional lapse is probably greatest for the two agencies sitting before you today.
And so let me ask you, manipulation, what if you're manipulating to avoid U.S. sanctions?
You know, I'd have to speak to our enforcement counsel to see how that fits in, but we would certainly look at it. And if
I'd like to have you do so, and I would love to hear back through the committee. Are you interacting with FinCEN to the extent that you may have limited jurisdiction? Are you adequately integrated into the financial regulatory network that watches for illicit activities, or are there gaps that could create vulnerabilities?
Yeah. So as we mentioned before, Senator, Chairman Clayton and I are part of a virtual currency task force that is put together by the Treasury Secretary that includes the Fed and FinCEN. And we have already had our first meeting, a beginning meeting to set out some work streams. We will have more to come. And it just so happens that I'm actually meeting with FinCEN's virtual currency team this week on a previously scheduled meeting to get some introductory discussion started of cooperation between our agencies. Mm-hmm. And so I look forward to actually asking them this question as well.
Okay. And I would just say to both of you, to the extent that you have a role to play and you lack the present authorities to do so, I would love to know about that if you determine that is necessary, because I get my sense of cryptocurrencies largely driven to evade U.S. sanctions and to undermine sovereign currencies. Both of them are a challenge to the national interests of the United States. Let me ask you this. We've seen a dramatic increase in the number of initial coin offerings where private companies are using digital tokens to raise money instead of going to the capital markets. The Wall Street Journal reported that initial coin offerings grew from about 96 million in 2016 to over 4 billion in 2017. Many of these ICOs are relying on celebrity promoters to gin up the sales. For example, last year, Floyd Mayweather, the boxer, used Instagram to promote the purchase of Centra tokens. Now, I've done extensive work on consumer protections in the prepaid card space, where we've seen celebrities like the Kardashians use their status to sell products that come at a steep cost to consumers. And this feels eerily similar to that. Just the next avenue of exploitation, and I worry about unsuspecting investors that don't have the resources to understand the true risks. What can the SEC do to better protect investors who may be persuaded by celebrity promoters to purchase tokens offered in initial coin offerings without fully understanding the risks?
Senator, I'm not going to comment on a specific instance, but some
talking about broadly.
Some time ago, we put out an alert that said, if you are promoting securities, you're taking on securities law liability. I believe that has tamped down some of this endorsement activity. I will say it again right here. If you are promoting securities, you're potentially taking on securities law liability.
Well, let me ask you, I appreciate that, and I hope that you will think about doing more to protect consumers. Can you walk us through why the SEC at this point is not comfortable with approving ETFs with significant investments in cryptocurrencies?
our ETF product space is largely a retail product space, and we've made it clear to the marketplace that there are a couple of issues with having an ETF that's based on a cryptocurrency. They go to price discovery, custody, and some other issues around volatility. We've let the industry know that those are issues that are of concern to us, and that we don't want to approve an ETF product with a cryptocurrency underlier until we can get comfortable with those issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Moran.